and welcome to this episode of For Traveling Teens. In today's episode, we'll meet Adam. You'll find out why Adam thinks travel is thrilling. You'll hear about some of the places he's most excited to go to, which do include glaciers and Egypt. You'll also find out what he loved about Sydney, Australia, and why he really hates bugs. Stick around afterwards to find out more about one of his favorite travel memories. Hello and welcome to the podcast. My guest today is Adam. So hi, Adam. Welcome.
Hi.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm an almost 12-year-old who probably acts more like a 14-year-old. I live in Lake Mary, which is south of Orlando. And I'm really good at Rocket League.
Ooh, what is Rocket League?
It's like the video game now. It's car soccer, basically.
Wow. So I am already super uncool for not knowing about the video game. What kind of teacher am I? Oh man.
It's not like the video game. Everyone's actually talking about the mobile video game. It's a computer one though. Nobody talks about those.
Okay. Shoo. Well, I feel a little bit less out of touch now, but I will do some research after our chat together. So, Adam, tell me, why do you like to travel?
I like traveling because I like seeing stuff, and my mom and dad like to travel too. Also, like different types of travel places, like maybe Yellowstone or some other place like that, can often be really cool. And I think everyone in my family can agree that I definitely need a break from Rocket League every now and then. So that's one reason. Also, being able to see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see, like because of my travel, I've gone to half of the United States in my first 11 years of life.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's an added bonus to travel. Also, I've gone to like 10 countries or something too.
Ooh, well, I can't wait to get
Name
some more.
them. France, Italy, so the Netherlands, UK, Australia, and a few more that I've probably just drove through, like maybe Mexico or something. I think I drove through there. But yeah, I've gone to a lot of different places and I get to see a lot of things. And because of that, like it's thrilling. Is probably the best word for it. It's always like as long as there's no bugs, like in the Great Smoky Mountains, it's awesome. Like
I love that.
I definitely also like feeling high or being up high.
Being up high, so you
So
like
the
heights?
Grand Canyon and the Badlands and all that was very fun.
Oh, well, I can't wait to hear more of your stories. What is your favorite way to travel?
RV.
Oh, do you all have your own RV or do you rent one?
We have our own RV, but it's only like our second RV, so you can imagine it's not very big. It has a master bed. It's a 24-foot master bedroom in the back, double bunk beds, and then a couch that turns into a bed, and then there was a table and a bed.
Very cool.
And then there's also like a miniature kitchen. I don't know. It's in this. It is one pathway connecting like a ton of different multi-use things, and it has a tiny bathroom. It even has a shower, so like I'm pretty satisfied with what we got in 24 feet.
So what do you like about RV travel? What's so great about it?
How do I put this? Camping is probably my favorite type of travel, and I definitely like our camper a lot, and there's also a lot of fun things that we can do camping. But then again, like RV travel isn't an outstanding winner. It's not like really far. I also really like plane travel. Mainly because you can't take RVs across oceans. Like I wouldn't be able to go RV camping in Australia. So like that was That
You'd
was
have to
fun.
fly to Australia and then rent an RV there.
I mean, you could do that, but we pretty much hung out in big cities like Brisbane. We had 4 stops: Brisbane, Cairns, Melbourne, and Sydney. So we were in apartments the whole time.
Well, I've been to all those cities, so maybe we can swap some stories a little bit later. You've already mentioned to us about the different states that you've been to and some of the countries. Why do you think it's important for tweens and teens to travel away from their home area?
So that they're not looking at a video game screen the whole time, basically. Also, like, if you get a good sense of the outside world, that definitely helps you, like, when you're older, I think, like, going in the outside world, like, oh, yay, don't have to listen to my parents anymore. Let's go play video games 24/7. Actually, you know what? No, I want to go see glaciers again.
So it provides you to learn things that you can go back once you're your own adult self and take yourself to places you've seen before and things that excited you.
Yeah, also it tends to get people out of the house travel, especially if it's somewhat enticing.
All right. So what is somewhere that's somewhat enticing?
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Oh, the Great Smoky Mountains too. That was probably my favorite
What's the best part about the Great Smoky Mountains?
I've never seen a river before I went to the Great Smoky Mountains. Or snow, because I live in Florida.
That's true. So
and the mountains were very pretty. I'd never seen mountains either. It was all new stuff. Only bad thing about it was no electricity, but we had a generator. So we had like just enough to run the fridge.
Okay, good. So you had food. Excellent. So Adam, what's your biggest travel dream? Where do you dream of being able to go and see?
I've done a lot of stuff already. I'm not gonna lie. I've always wanted to go see glaciers. I've heard really good things about that. That's probably like the one big national park that I haven't been to. And the stuff up in Alaska and Hawaii, but that's a different time. That's something different. And then there's I also kind of want to visit China. I don't know why. I've just wanted to. China and Egypt or like any of those sort of things. Because like I've seen pretty much what European culture is. I've definitely seen American culture. I mean, and then I live in Florida, so there's a lot of Cubans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans here. So I got a pretty good feel for what Mexican culture is like. I want to see what Asia's like.
I like it. Sounds like a plan. So let's talk about preparing for these trips. How much input do you have or do you like to have when your family or your school is planning a trip?
What we do is we all pack our own things and we each put a little bit in, and then like we each put a little bit into other things. Like usually I help put kitchen stuff in, like the spices and all that stuff. When we're camping with like the Boy Scouts and all that, I have to pack a lot more because no one's gonna pack the food for me, and I'm a little picky with what I like to eat. So like if they're having like anything pork or chicken, I don't like pork or chicken. I'll have beef sometimes, but I will not eat pork or chicken. So oftentimes I have to pack my own food.
So you're great at helping with the packing part of it. How are you with the planning part? Do you like to have some input with your family, particularly when you're planning somewhere to go, or do your parents do most of the planning?
I used to do more of the planning, but my parents kind of got a good feel for what me and my sister like the best now. So like we don't really need to get our input in order for them to already know what we'd want. So yeah, so I don't really do much planning anymore, but I still feel like I should have a say in what I do.
Good. So you mentioned that you sometimes bring your own food and things because you don't always like what's going to be available. What are some other must-haves when you pack for a trip? What are things you pack? What are things you download? What are things you bring along?
Um, for one thing I can do is like at night maybe on on a camping trip, like especially with the Boy Scouts or something, I cannot get to bed without like some form of sit down time. So like I might probably like watch YouTube or something. So I always have to bring either my phone and a phone charger or like my Switch or something. But I almost ruined my Switch last time because I forgot to bring the case, so I don't bring that anymore. Uh,
Oh, that doesn't sound good. So what if you can't bring something electronic? Is there anything else that you like to bring, or what sort of things do you like to download for your electronics?
Besides electronics, also oftentimes I bring like a fidget device, like a Rubik's cube or something. Solved it like
Awesome.
50 times before.
Wow.
But other than that, like that's pretty much what I do. I also enjoy reading before bed because that's something that I do at home. But yeah, that's pretty much how I entertain myself. Everything else, like when I'm out with the Boy Scouts, it's awesome. And when I'm with my family, we're always doing something each day. So I really don't need to bring anything else.
Awesome. So a good, well-planned trip with lots of activities means you don't have to bring as much to entertain yourself otherwise, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So,
Unless it's with like a bunch of friends of yours that you probably can kind of consider brothers almost, then it doesn't even need to be planned. Like just as long as you're there, you're gonna have fun.
cool. So you've mentioned before that you enjoy kind of seeing the new things, and you've mentioned a few like national parks and things like that a few times. What are you looking for in a location when you go on a trip? Are you looking to hike? Do you like amusement parks? Do you look for history or mountains? What are you into when you're going to a location?
I really like hiking and mountains and seeing stuff and no bugs. Those are pretty much my four criterias. Like everything else is just about unconditional. Except I very well prefer it if there's a river by our campsite, which is
Why
just
do you
awesome.
like it if there's a river near your campsite?
That's a way to get entertained if your mom or dad don't like say we're gonna have a day at the campsite just to see what it's doing, and then there's like nothing there, and then you can't play video games all day. Then you can go swimming in the river. Plus,
Ah,
swimming in the river is fun.
so
I've
swimming, and if you're into fishing, that's a good thing to do by the river as well.
I don't like fishing.
I don't particularly
No,
care for fishing either, but I'm sure there are some people who do.
like I can't do it. I can't do it. I step down. I look the other way. I can't.
No.
I can't do fishing.
So you mentioned that you love hiking and you love the mountains. You've also mentioned though that like when you were in Australia, you did a lot of city stuff. Do you like cities as well?
I do. Um, but one of my favorite things is the restaurants. Like, I think I discovered like my favorite non-Italian food on a camping trip, which is pork dumplings.
I thought you didn't eat pork.
That's the one thing that I eat pork with.
That's the one pork
Yeah,
dish you can have.
I didn't think it would come up, but yeah, that's the one thing that I made an exception for because they're so good.
And that's all right. We can all have our preferences and make exceptions for them. So, since we're talking about food already, are you an adventurous eater? Do you like to try new things when you go places?
Yes, but only to a certain point. Like if it's I have a fear of non-vertebrates, like a very, very severe one. So like if it's like, here, try crab. Nope. Never had crab, never had lobster.
So
Never had
you wouldn't probably have escargot in France.
I don't know what that is, but no.
Snails.
Nope.
No
Nope.
snails for you.
Olive fish for seafood. That's about it.
Okay, interesting. So nothing that doesn't have a backbone for you.
Yep.
What do you
Nothing.
think is
In
the
fact,
most, so you mentioned that you loved these pork dumplings the most. What do you think is the most exciting or adventurous or different thing you've ever tried?
Sydney was very unique. I can definitely say that. That was fun. I got to go to the Sydney Opera House. I got to see the fireworks because we went right around New Year's, so we got to see the fireworks over the Sydney Opera House. And since January 1st is Australia's Independence Day, the fireworks are like extra big because it's also their 4th of July.
Oh, very cool fun fact. So, what is your favorite trip memory? Is your favorite trip memory from Australia or is it from somewhere else?
Yeah, it's probably from Sydney. I wish I had a better story for that, but yeah. It's either that, but just to make that this more interesting, my favorite camping trip, that's not like in cities or something, because Sydney was awesome, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably the Great Smoky Mountains camping trip. I really enjoyed it up there. We got a campsite with a river, ideal. We got no bugs, ideal. We got pretty views because we were way up on a mountain, ideal. And then it was the Great Smoky Mountains, so come on, guys. Deal.
I love it. I loved Sydney as well. I've been to Sydney a couple of times, so I can definitely appreciate your love of Sydney. My friends who live in Melbourne were not excited about the fact that I preferred Sydney to Melbourne. They thought that I was definitely wrong on that.
Yeah, like Sydney's good, Melbourne's good, but like Melbourne's good in a different way. The only thing that I do, different way? I mean, like trams. Trams is one thing, but like then there's Melbourne. It's clearly like a big retail city or something. It's like it has like the recreation is really nice. But then Sydney is like a historical city, let's be honest. The only thing I really didn't like about that Australia trip was how hot it was in Brisbane the day we left, because keep in mind, this is at like the peak of summer for them. Like the last day we left, I think it went over like 101 or something. So, yeah, that was fun. And then like, the other thing was how long it took. We had 22 hours of flight combined to get there. Mm-hmm. And I can't sleep on planes, so I didn't sleep for like 36 hours or something.
Oh my gosh.
That was a bad few nights.
So I know it's a long flight, but did you feel like it was a really long flight, or did you have enough things to entertain you?
Well, it was actually split into 2 flights. It was 5 and 14. It was 5 and 16, I think. 6 and 16. So and we had like a 2-hour break in between. So that was helpful. And the longest one, the international flight, they had this really long but really interesting documentary on soccer, which I'm very interested in.
So you enjoy soccer as well?
Yeah, like it was soccer's greatest goals or something, and it was super long. It was like soccer's top 500 greatest goals or something.
So do you cheer for American soccer players, or do you have a European team that you follow?
We've always been kind of like Newcastle fans, but they haven't been very good in the past couple of years. So yeah, I've got less interested in rooting for teams, but I've always been a very good soccer player. I haven't played in a while because of coronavirus. And this year's my last year I'd be able to qualify for baseball, the other sport that I play competitively. So I decided to focus on baseball this year too.
Very cool. So you mentioned being in Australia. Were you able to see either Australian football, or were you able to see cricket or anything like that?
I was able to see cricket. It was actually the one game we went to. I was very interested in cricket because the TV always had it on in our apartment rooms. So I was trying to figure out how it worked. So I went to a game. It was the Sydney Sixers versus the Sydney Thunder, a game that happens once every 10 years.
Oh, wow.
10,000 people were there.
Ooh.
Just happened to be a coincidence that was when we were there, so we went.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about some of your favorite trip memories. If you feel comfortable sharing, what's your worst trip memory?
What's my worst trip memory? There was one pretty terrible trip that was when that we went down to like South Florida. It was not the Everglades, but it was by it. It was like the Everglades without being the Everglades. It was super duper buggy and there was nothing to do. So I spent like 50% of the time whacking my face or in the camper sleeping.
Oh, I could definitely see that way why that would not be a good trip memory. That would not be
Yeah,
enjoyable.
like that was pretty much all I did. Slap my face because of bugs and
Oh no.
sleep.
Oh dear. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
So when there are things that you don't particularly care for, like insects that you've mentioned a few different times, or maybe something else that maybe either makes you anxious or nervous or uncomfortable, like maybe new foods or not knowing where you're going or not speaking the language, how do you deal with that fear or anxiety leading up to the trip?
Really, I don't have any fears or anxieties. I've always really liked doing things, but for insects, there's something different because while they're annoying, I kind of just accept them as part of camping because they're part of nature and try to deal with it. But they certainly are annoying, and it's
They
ideal
definitely
if you don't have them. It's a good thing that when we went to the Everglades, we went in the winter.
All right. So good. So when you do have something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, you kind of just try and deal with it the best you can.
Yeah, I mean adventure.
So your
Like
sense
once
of adventure outweighs your concern about these things.
Yeah, like once I think we had like a tire pop right in the middle of a Baltimore highway or something.
Oh,
And yeah, that was fun. But adventure. And then we also had an engine malfunction once that literally took like 2 hours to fix and we parked in I think we were like lucky enough to we noticed it when like we had parked in a school and we had stopped to go to the bathroom. It was like a high school parking lot or something. And then the car wouldn't turn on.
oh,
It turned out it was because we had turned on the lights through the air conditioning or something while the car was still plugged into the camper.
I see.
So we just drained the car battery like that and we had to go get a new battery.
Oh no. Oh, that does sound like a not very great trip memory either. Whew.
Yeah,
All
that was fun though.
right.
Because
Well,
luckily we were at a high school, so they had a soccer field.
so
So
you made
we
the
played
best of it.
tag on that for like a good hour and a half.
Awesome. So you made the best of it even when things weren't ideal for you.
Yeah, like it would be terrible if we were at like a gas station or something. What would we do there?
I don't know. I'm not sure what you would do. So, do you have some advice that you want parents or teachers to know when they're planning a trip for tweens or teens?
No, not really.
No,
It's
you
just
don't have
I
anything that you want them to know?
I do know that I do know that like tweens don't like going on unless they're like me. They don't like going on super long camping trips. And I know a lot of them prefer city travel.
Oh, okay.
And but what's another thing? There's also sorry, I'm thinking.
That's okay. You could think.
Uh Oh yeah, I know they're really intolerant for insects like me. Like especially mosquitoes. I hate those.
Okay.
Like once we went on a trip that was so filled with mosquitoes, my mom accidentally inhaled one on like
Oh
3
no.
occasions.
Oh, gross. Uh, so a good thing maybe to think about for parents and teachers is paying attention to the season
Climate
that you're going to be going, right? So
and
that you can
climate.
know. And the climate, yeah. All right.
Yeah, I don't like it when it's super duper hot the whole trip. I had to deal with that in the Badlands but the fact that we got to go rock climbing like every other hour or something kind of made up for it.
Oh, good. Excellent. So, one more piece of advice. What would you say to other tweens and teens who aren't sure if travel is for them?
There's always something for you. There's always something for you. I remember I never really liked camping at first, but I grew more fond of it as we went on bigger camping trips, and my parents got to know that like we could do it. We went on bigger and bigger camping trips, and they got better and better and better. There's always something for you. Travel, there's always something for you, whether you travel or something. It may not be what you think. Like you might like France and not even know it, but there's always going to be something for you wherever it is out there. Well, it's probably not even going to be in the US. I'm not going to lie, since we already know what the US is like. It's there's always going to be something that's good. Like I personally think it was probably Sydney for me. But there's always really something that you're going to have fun with. And it's probably going to be more than one thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for all of your insight and all of your thoughts. And I really appreciate you joining me today.
No problem.
In today's episode, we met Adam. And as you listened, you would have heard him tell a lot of great stories about a lot of places. But I was particularly interested in how much he loved the Great Smoky Mountains. The Great Smoky Mountains kind of run along the border of the state of North Carolina and Tennessee in the United States. Now, one thing you definitely heard Adam say is that he really hates bugs, but that he didn't really find a problem with it in the Smoky Mountains. From the research that I've been able to tell, mosquitoes and ticks are actually not too much of a problem in the Smoky Mountains. Depending on the time of year, you may have to deal with some snakes and spiders, but overall, in terms of insects, it's not actually a bad place to visit. Most people visit in the summer or they visit in the fall for the changing of the leaves. So, a few things that I wanted to draw out that you can possibly add to your wander list include this really cool driving nature trail. It's called the Roaring Fork Motor Trail. And so basically, you and your family would drive along, and it's 6 miles one way. And you pull off in all of these different spots, and they have streams, mills, and other historic buildings. Plus, you can get out and hike to Rainbow Falls, which is an 80-foot an 80-foot waterfall that you can see. Speaking of hiking to waterfalls, because we heard how much Adam loves having a river nearby, there is the Laurel Falls and Grotto Falls. Now, maybe you're interested in Pigeon Forge, which is one of the towns in the Great Smoky Mountains. It's famous for being the home of country singer Dolly Parton and is home to her amusement park, Dollywood, as well as Splash Country Water Park, in case you like those kind of activities. Maybe you love heights. Near to Pigeon Forge is a place called Gatlinburg. They have Clingman's Dome, which is about 23 miles away from Gatlinburg, and it is the highest point in Tennessee. On a really clear day, you can see 100 miles. The other thing you might enjoy if you love heights is the Gatlinburg Sky Bridge, which is the longest pedestrian suspension bridge in North America. Now, maybe you are like me and you prefer to keep your feet on the ground. I can highly recommend something that I actually did while I was in Tennessee. About an hour north of Pigeon Forge, you can take a trek with llamas. So it's amazing. You literally meet Miss Sandy, who is the llama mama, and you get your own llama to walk along on a couple of mile trek. It takes a few hours and it is so much fun. I got to walk with Flash, and at first he was a little skeptical of the love that I had for him. But by the end of it, we were best friends, taking selfies and even sharing ginger snap cookies that he ate straight from my mouth. It was amazing. So there's tons of things that you can do in the Great Smoky Mountain area. There's also the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And one of the things that they do every year is a 2-week event all about the fireflies. There are 19 different kinds of fireflies. And in 2 weeks in May and June, you can get tickets to go and see them. So even if you're not into insects that come and bite your face, you might enjoy seeing the fireflies. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you're interested in being a teen or tween interviewed for the podcast, please reach out at thetravelingteach.com/contact. If you love this podcast, please consider leaving a review wherever it is you're listening along. I'm Shae Pepper, the traveling teach. At the time of this recording, I am on a 5-year, 50-state road trip around the US, although with COVID, it's going to end up being 6 or 7 years. Darn you, COVID. But I travel full time with my husband, Steven, and our dog, Truffles. I'm a professional youth worker and online educator. I'm passionate about learning on location and want to bring that experience to as many young people as possible through my virtual field trips. To learn more about my travels and online classes, go to thetravelingteach.com. To follow Truffles' travels, our trip from her perspective, which I am sure is infinitely more interesting to most of you than I am, go to @TrufflesTravelsUS on Instagram. To be a guest, tween, or teen on the podcast, just reach out at thetravelingteach.com/contact. This has been an episode of For Traveling Teens, a podcast for teens and tweens who love travel, whether they're actively traveling or just dreaming.